Hi, it's Rabba Rona with your weekly Torah message in times of Corona. This is May 15th, and this week we are reading two parshiot, Vayakhel and Pekudei, which end the book of Vayikra or Leviticus. Now, these two parshiot are often read together, and that's the case in most years, as it is this year. They're only separated on leap years when we need to add extra parshiot to accommodate for the extra month added to the calendar. These two parshiot are a study in contrasts. The first parsha, Vayakhel, is sort of a summary of the ethical commandments that we find throughout the book of Leviticus. If you do all of these things that God has commanded to take care of your fellow people, things will go well for you. Take care to tithe your property, to tithe your crops. Leave your lands fallow every 7th year, and on the 50th year, the Jubilee, to free your Hebrew slaves at the appropriate times and to treat them equitably, not oppress people. Remember that you were slaves in Egypt, so don't oppress people. All of these kinds of equitable rules, and also we're commanded that we have to follow God's Torah, and if we do so, we'll receive our rains in the appropriate times. Now, those who have read my midrashim, which are available on my website, rabbarona.us, will know that I've written a commentary on the second paragraph of Kriyat Shema, which is based on Deuteronomy chapter 11, which tells us that God gives us a carrot and stick. If we follow God's Torah, God will give us the rains in our time, and we'll have wonderful crops and everything will be beautiful. However, if God doesn't, if we don't follow God's Torah, God will dry up the rains and the grounds will go dry and we won't have our crops and we'll be exiled from the land and destroyed as a people. This is the kind of theodicy that we hate so much, that God will punish us horribly if we do things that God doesn't like. And so I phrase this in a different way in this midrash, that we are commanded in the beginning of the Bible to take care of the planet. And we have abused the planet. And so the planet is responding with things like global warming. It's a natural outcome of what happened. Now, do we really know why Corona happened? Of course not. We can't say what caused viruses to mutate to become this. Is it a response to overuse of antibiotics? Of course not, because antibiotics only respond to bacteria, and Corona is a virus, and antibiotics don't treat viruses. But there may be other things that we've done that could have resulted in the mutations that led to Corona. We just don't know. And it's not worth beating ourselves up or flogging ourselves worrying about why Corona happened. Rather, we have to deal with the consequences of it. Now, when we get to the second parasha, Pekudei, this is what's known as a tokheha, a rebuke or a warning. There are two major tokhechot in the Torah. This one and one in the book of Devarim or Deuteronomy. And both of these are extremely difficult to read because we are told that all kinds of horrible, terrible things will befall us if we don't follow Torah. Now, those of you who are Jewish know that in about 4 and a little bit months, the High Holy Days are coming. And many of my rabbinic colleagues are already working on preparations for High Holy Days. I don't currently have a pulpit, so I'm not preparing in the same way. But I have been thinking about this. In the High Holy Day liturgy, there is a piyut, a liturgical poem called Unatana Tokef, which says who will die by fire and who by water, who by sword, and who by this and who by that. And one of the things is who will die by plague. This is a very horrifying piyut to read, but the end of it is teshuva utefila masim tovim ma'avirin et roah hagazera, that if we do prayer and repentance and tzedakah and make righteous acts, that we will limit the severity of God's decree. We read this liturgy every year because this is the tradition. But modern progressive Jews don't ascribe to the notion of theodicy, as I've said. And so we have to find a different meaning here. Certainly we know that thousands and thousands of people have passed from coronavirus, but this is not God being a rebuking God who is striking people down for having failed. We know that many really wonderful people have died from this plague. And how can we say that this is retribution from God when righteous people are dying from the virus? It doesn't make any sense. And so we have to reject that kind of theology. We have to reject it out of hand. And so when you hear clergy people and other philosophers saying that this is heavenly retribution because there are queer people out there, or there are idolaters out there, or this or that, you have to turn a blind eye to them. You have to close your ears to them in the moment and not take it personally, because these people are flat out wrong. Instead, you have to know that this is not an attack from God. God is not the Wizard of Oz. God is not sitting behind the curtain pulling levers as in the story of the Wizard of Oz. God is not killing people out of whim or fancy or out of retribution for what they themselves did, or because of what I did as a transgender person, or what any individual may or may not have done. This is simply a fate of nature. And we know that fates of nature have occurred throughout the history of the earth. There was the ice age that destroyed the planet before humans ever existed. How can we be so chutzpahdik as to say that God destroyed the dinosaurs because of what human did? We can't. Humans didn't exist. So we can't say that now either. This is a naturally occurring thing. And so please don't listen when these meshuganas, when these people say these kind of horrible things. Remember that you're a good person and you're doing the best that you can. Be strong, be courageous, chazak v'amatz, as Moses says to Joshua at the end of the Torah. Keep plugging along. And if you need help, there are so many agencies out there that are waiting to help you. On my websites, there's a link to the PFLAG page that lists all the helplines. On Facebook, you can reach out to Ruach Emotional and Spiritual Support, an organization that I'm volunteering for. We're offering free counseling and pastoral support to anybody who needs it. So if you're struggling right now in these times of Corona, don't carry these burdens by yourself. Reach out to somebody. There's somebody out there who will care for you and listen to you. So please take care of yourself. Be good to yourself and keep breathing and keep loving and living. Shabbat Shalom.